Welcome to today's tactic, where we'll be diving into a word you hear everywhere in leadership, management, even government very often: accountability. It's a buzzword that gets thrown around a lot, but what does it really mean when you're managing a sales team? So, in this episode, we're breaking down the hows, the whys, the whats of accountability, specifically for sales managers. We'll explore why accountability is crucial. We'll explore why accountability is crucial, how to implement it, how to implement it effectively, and what does it look like when done right. So whether you're a seasoned sales manager or new to the role, this conversation will give you the insights you need to build a high-performing team where responsibility isn't just a word, it's a driving force for success. So let's get into it. Building a successful and positive sales team isn't just about hitting those big sales numbers. It's much more than that. It's about encouraging the right behaviors that drive long-term success. And by recognizing and rewarding these behaviors, not the numbers, the behaviors, you can keep your team motivated and energized. It's all about fostering an attitude of responsibility and accountability. So in this tactic, we'll explore how essential it is for being an inspirational sales manager to create a culture where every team member takes personal ownership of their role in the sales process. While this high level of performance might seem daunting at first, it's the key to inspiring your team to be not just meeting expectations, but exceeding them. You're going to learn today how to cultivate a team of top performers who take full responsibility for their actions and outcomes, driving greater success for everyone involved. The real secret to achieve this level of performance is you, the sales manager. And for you to be recognizing and rewarding the right sales behaviors, there it is again, not the numbers, the behaviors that drive the numbers. It requires you observing, making note, taking the steps, and letting people know you caught them doing it right. There's also the opposite side of that. You must observe, see what's going wrong, and be able to give people the developmental feedback they need to course correct themselves. By promoting and recognizing the behaviors you want, the ones you want to see your team in interactions and duties and phone calls and emails and meetings and presentations, you can maintain a level of positive energy and motivation. It's not just about achieving high sales numbers. It's about fostering a mindset of responsibility and accountability, both on your part and transferring that level of accountability and responsibility on that of your sales team members. You want individuals who are not only meeting expectations, but exceeding them, right? And through the inspirational approaches I'm going to share with you today, your team will be able to, once you deploy them, take full responsibility for their actions and outcomes. They'll own it. When they own it, you're going to ensure a high level of success for the entire team. Unlocking sustainable sales excellence requires more than simply telling salespeople, your sales employees, your sales team members to change their behavior and how to change it. It's the last thing you want to do. That's the first habit I have to break in sales managers is quit telling them what to do. Instead, you must coach them. You must coach them and help them recognize what is working successfully, what those behaviors are, when they do it, how they do it, and most importantly, how to sustain it. On the other hand, you must also make them aware of what they're doing or not doing that's creating shortfalls in their potential performance. So when I talk about coaching, what am I talking about? Coaching means creating self-awareness, self-discovery. That's where you've got to get away from telling them what they're doing wrong, telling them how to correct it. This is how you get buy-in, self-discovery. This is how you get commitment, self-discovery. And at all costs, you must avoid telling them and help them self-discover what they can improve on or what they're doing that's so terrific that's getting them the results. You do that by using some open-ended questions. And I've got 10 examples, which I'll list in the show notes, of questions a sales manager can use to help a salesperson identify the areas for improvement. Question one, Mr. Salesperson, Miss Salesperson, what specific part of the sales process do you feel most confident in? Why is that? Question two, hey, which part of the sales process do you find most challenging? How do you usually handle that? Tell me, can you recall a recent sale that didn't go as planned? What do you think contributed to that outcome? Hey, I'm wondering, how do you prepare for your sales meetings or calls? And what do you do to enhance your preparation? What's working for you? What's your process? Let's look back on your last most successful sale. What behaviors or strategies do you think led to that success? I was wondering, how do you typically handle objections? Objections from potential clients or current clients? And do you think there's a way to improve that approach? In your interactions with customers, how do you gauge whether they're genuinely interested? In your interactions with customers, how do you gauge whether they're genuinely interested or are they just being polite? What feedback have you received from customers or colleagues that surprised you? How'd you respond to that? Tell me, how do you stay motivated when a sale doesn't go through? And what could help you bounce back even quicker? What's one behavior or habit that you believe is holding you back from reaching your full potential in sales? What steps do you think can change that? These questions are all designed to encourage introspection, as you just heard. This helps salespeople gain insights, critical thinking skills. See, by telling them what to do, you're telling them what to think. This way helps them critically think their way out of challenging situations, or even when things are going right, to be able to recognize what's going right and be able to repeat that in their behaviors. Not only what's working very well, but areas that they can identify to improve on and get even better. Now, I'm going to guess that you've got some level of sales training involved with your organization. Not, we need to talk about that. You need to have consistent, high-level sales training, whether it's an outside person coming in and training, an online course, or you yourself conducting sales training. It's important for everybody to understand the proper behaviors as expected by you, the sales manager, as expected by your sales process. And you do have a sales process, right? You need to have an established, documented sales process. How else do you train somebody? Tribal knowledge? If that's the case, you're holding yourself and your team members back. So all that aside, now let me give you 10 self-discovery questions that connect the salesperson's reflections back to their sales training or the sales process. First one, tell me, how closely do you follow the sales process we've been training on? Where do you think you might be deviating from that? Which techniques from your sales training have you found most effective? Great. How are you consistently applying those? Think back. Can you identify a recent sales interaction where you used a strategy from our training? What was the outcome? What'd you learn from that? I'm curious, are there any parts of the sales process you tend to skip or rush through? How might you fully embracing that and fully engaging in that step or those steps? How might that impact your results? How do you feel you're utilizing the tools and the resources provided in our sales training? You think there's anything you've overlooked that could enhance your performance? Think back and reflect on our sales process. Where do you see opportunities to better align your approach with what you've learned in training? Tell me, when you encounter a challenging sale, how often do you refer back to your training for guidance? And what insights have you gained by doing so? How effectively are you using the questioning techniques we've been practicing this? How effectively are you using the discovery question techniques we practice in training to uncover customer needs, pain points, wants, challenges? In what ways do you think adhering more closely to our sales process could help you achieve better results? Looking back on recent sales, how often would you consciously, looking back on recent sales, how often have you, looking back on recent sales, how often have you consciously applied the principles from your training? Okay. Where do you see some room for improvement? Improvement in integrating these principles into your daily routine. They're going to have answers. Sometimes it's difficult to pull all this out of them. You may have to probe, tell me more, share with me, think about how would you maybe. Keep probing. They may be hiding the fact that they know better during the course of this. Or very often, high performance salespeople are so subconsciously competent that it's hard for them to unpack these vital behaviors, these best practices that they routinely go through during every sale interaction. It's hard for them to pull that out and describe those. So help them self-discover both from an improvement and a success side of things. All these questions are designed to help your salesperson reconnect with the training and the sales process. And by doing so, you encourage them to apply these lessons more consistently, like day to day with every customer. It's like playing the same sheet of music over and over again because that's what works. Now let's transition over to our topic, which is full accountability. And full accountability is the key to success. Self-accountability and you with the team accountability. And full accountability happens when your sales team sees the clear benefits of your approach and understand how it connects with their personal, social, and financial goals. That's so important for you to align their goals to their behaviors. Because when you do, this is going to improve that. Tie it to their goals. So now, let's talk a little bit more about the importance of accountability in a sales team. Because by fostering a mindset of responsibility and accountability using the proper communication techniques, which we just went over, you can inspire your sales team to take personal ownership. Those open-ended questions help them tell you we're much more likely to buy in and take ownership of what we tell somebody versus what we're told. So when they take personal ownership of their roles, their best practices, their vital behaviors, using the process, using the sales training, it helps them exceed expectations. And as they practice and ingrain this, they are able, thus you are able, to achieve sustainable sales excellence. And let's just face the fact, It's essential to acknowledge that a lack of accountability on a sales team can have a significant impact on their collective performance. And that's all on you. Because while it's easy to attribute poor sales outcomes to external factors, excuses, it's hard to hire good people, competition is too tough, our prices are too high, we're out of stock. When you take a closer examination, really look at what's happening, what they're doing or not doing that's creating success or shortcomings. When you look hard at your team's internal processes, I promise you, through your observations, you will reveal a range of issues that are holding them back. So high prices, your prices may be too high, may be the absolute truth. You may absolutely be out of stock. The economy may be a little rocky right now. That all is very plausible. But this puts the accountability back on you. How can we close those issues by doing a better job at selling? How can we improve our approach, our techniques, our frequency, our training, our feedback to get a little bit better? So as I continue on around this tactic, let's explore why accountability is so crucial to your team's success. And we're also going to talk about the common problems that arise when lack of accountability is in place. But through the years, I found where there are challenges with sales teams, starts with the sales manager. And it's often, not almost always, because they are not addressing the issue. They're not having difficult conversations. They have some level of reluctance or fear of holding their team accountable. Why? Here are 5 reasons why I've discovered through the years. These aren't necessarily in order, but they're the 5 most common. 5 most common reasons why sales managers do not confront accountability. Fear of conflict. Many sales managers, they worry about enforcing accountability, and that's going to lead to uncomfortable confrontations or conflicts with their team members. Listen, I understand that can be stressful, and they fear that it's going to potentially harm team morale. It may or it may not. I can tell you when handled properly, it will not. Almost never, when the proper communication skills, the proper mindset, the proper attitude and emotion is applied, you will not have conflict, especially if you're frequent enough with your feedback. If you're letting it build up too long, the likelihood of some confrontational conflict will come out, and you can harm team morale because now you're inconsistent. And the number 2, which is often tied with the first one I just discussed, is sales managers' concern about damaging responsibilities. And number 2, which ties back to the one I just discussed, the number 1 reason, is a sales manager's concern about damaging relationships. Many sales managers build close relationships with their sales team. Generally, sales team members are made up of people, and we naturally have social engagement and the need to be liked and the drive to get together and support each other. And in their fear of missing out on being liked or being accepted, they fear that holding someone accountable could strain or damage the relationship you have. And those damaging relationships in their minds could lead to a less a less cohesive team environment. And again, that may be true, depending on how you approach it. And frequency, again, is fairly key to this. Because if you put up with it, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, if you put up with it, and then all of a sudden you've had all you can take, and then you confront something, you introduce somebody to a problem they've had for weeks and weeks, that will absolutely damage the relationship. And again, we're going to talk about that in more depth in just a minute. Or most sales managers, most managers in general, hate hiring new people. The whole interview process, the chance of getting it wrong, the training, you've got a hole in your team. I've got to make up that hole. It's strain and stress for everybody. So they fear, they worry about losing a team member. So they subconsciously hold off in addressing issues for that reason. Managers may be concerned if they push too hard on accountability, especially if it's with someone that is fairly high performing, but you see something that has to be addressed, that the conversation is going to create an opening. That person's going to leave the company, quit. And I think when you've got an especially competitive industry where top talent is in high demand and good people are hard to find, it tends to tamper down one's sales manager's desire to go have these difficult conversations, especially with their top performers. Once again, done properly, it won't be the case. Maybe the sales manager lacks confidence in their leadership. Maybe they have put things off. Maybe they've tolerated something too long. And maybe you have some doubt in your ability to effectively enforce the accountability without causing resentment or backlash, which could lead you to avoid these difficult conversations altogether. I get it. You're going through this, you're listening to this to build your confidence. And my goal always at the end of these is to be able to give you that much more you can work on, apply to gain confidence and expertise. And the fifth one is uncertainty about fairness. Sales managers may fear that their attempts to hold the team accountable, well, maybe they're being a little inconsistent, or maybe they feel like they're being unfair, especially when there are not clear expectations, a process, sales training. When things are tribal, it makes it really hard. How do you train somebody on tribal knowledge? It's hard, not impossible. Inconsistency will abound. So if there's unclear expectations, or if previous managers didn't enforce accountability rigorously, that just hasn't been the culture in the past. Now you're the new sheriff and you're taking over and you got to put this in place and you want to be liked and you want everybody to just get along. This uncertainty about fairness may prevent you from having the conversations you need to be having. But the fact is, if you're afraid of holding your team members accountable, you're stuck. You're stuck in a self-limiting mindset that not only is holding you back, but also hurting your team. And this reluctance, I call it fear, helps you from addressing or keeps you. This reluctance, I call it fear, keeps you from addressing the real issues that could be holding your sales team back. And by doing so, you're not being kind. This is going to be a little harsh, but you're actually being dishonest. Because when you avoid tough conversations or shy away from enforcing standards, you're not protecting the team. You're preventing them from reaching their full potential. It's a bit of a paradigm shift, And if you have reluctance to address problems, you're keeping salespeople from earning the commissions they deserve, which ultimately impacts their livelihoods, their job satisfaction, your company's success, your success. But by addressing these issues, but by not addressing these issues, you're absolutely limiting your team's overall success and costing your company valuable sales. When underperformance goes unchecked, it drags down the entire team's morale and productivity. Your reluctance, your fear is costing everyone potential earnings. Salespeople, you, and the company. Now, accountability often is associated with harshness, aggressiveness, being tough. It's not that. It's being fair. It's being honest. It's being straightforward. And again, if this becomes your repertoire and you're doing it regularly, when you address it, it is less of an issue. This is really about being honest and committed to helping your team succeed. If you're not helping them succeed, you're helping them fail. So if you have some of this fear of accountability and holding people to standards, you're missing out on stronger performance, better results, and a more successful team. If you are willing to have honest, friendly, high-value communications, self-discovery sessions with your team, and start overcoming this fear, it's going to lead to stronger performance, better results, and a more successful, motivated team. Being fair and honest, encouraging around accountability, it's a cornerstone of high-performing sales managers. Every single one I've ever worked with and over the decades. This is a very important part of their approach. They serve as not only a leader of the framework for individual responsibility, but also the critical element of fostering a positive, collaborative team environment. And when accountability is lacking within a sales team, often sales managers miss out on this point. The repercussions extend far beyond just that person's individual performance. It strikes right at the very heart of your entire team's morale and cohesion. The lack of accountability can lead to a pervasive sense of unfairness and resentment amongst your other team members. And in a sales environment where targets and results are highly visible, often they are, where things are highly competitive, it's benchmarked, the perception that certain team members are not pulling their weight or being allowed, if you will, which you are, to underperform without any consequences, it's going to demoralize your team because it's a sense of inequity. And this inequity will, in fact, erode the trust in your leadership because your team members are going to feel that standards are not being equally applied. They're not being consistently applied, or that you are indifferent to the team's collective efforts and contributions. I know that's not the truth. Moreover, when poor behaviors or poor performance go unchecked, not only does it undermine the team's overall productivity, but it also places an undue burden on more conscientious and high-performing team members. When you're coming up short in sales, who do you go to? The people who are performing. So you're relying on them to do even more. You're punishing your top performers. And by not confronting your underperformers, you're rewarding them. You don't intend to do that. Nobody intends to do that, but it's essentially what you're doing. So you don't mean to, but understand that you are. And these individuals may find themselves compensating for their underperforming colleagues. When times are tough, your top performers have more and more burden put on them to hit the numbers. You're increasing their stress. You're increasing the likelihood of burnout. And with all that, they're going to become dissatisfied. They're going to become frustrated with you. As I've said often, people work for people, they don't work for companies. It's you they're going to get frustrated with. And over time, this dynamic can create a very toxic work environment where even the most capable team members may become disengaged, maybe even seek out other opportunities, which further diminishes team morale. You want more? Here's a little bit more. The absence of accountability can stifle personal and professional growth within the team. Accountability mechanisms such as regular performance reviews, constructive feedback, proper communication skills, proper goal setting, those are not merely tools for performance management, but they're also essential for individual development and team development. Without these processes in place, team members may lack the direction, the motivation, the support needed to enhance their skills and achieve their full potential. And that leads to stagnation and a lack of innovation within the team. By fostering a culture of accountability within a sales team, it's not just about monitoring performance and addressing underperformance. It's about building a foundation of trust and fairness and mutual respect. And by you holding all team members to a clear and consistent standard, leaders can ensure that individual achievements are recognized and rewarded. Now we're going to the other side. That challenges are addressed, and when they're addressed constructively, they're not discouraging, they're encouraging. And that keeps your team united around its goals and its mission and its values. I'm telling you, it will absolutely enhance team morale. Accountability enhances team morale. Sales teams love a box. That's the fairness box, I call it. They may walk right up to the edge and look over, but as long as they know where the box is drawn and that everybody is equally held accountable to what is laid out in the way of expectations and standards, they're going to be much happier. It not only enhances team morale, but also drives collective success, creates a virtuous cycle of performance and satisfaction. And addressing poor performance in a sales team is not just about maintaining team morale and ensuring equitable work distribution. It's also fundamentally about fairness and respect towards the underperforming team members themselves. You owe it to them to help them out and not hold back with the proper technique. How can they fix what they don't know about? How are they going to fix something that they don't understand how to do? How can they improve what they're unaware of? Much less how, much less what steps to take to improve it. Without clear feedback and communication, it's totally unfair to expect an individual to recognize their own shortcomings and in turn improve upon them. It's almost impossible. It's the rare individual can do that. Human nature often leads us to harbor frustration towards others for not meeting expectations, our fear of conflict, and keeps us from having explicit communication. Very often we justify it by telling ourselves, they should just know. They've sold before. They've been in the sales teams before. They sold before they came here. It's not true. You're just kidding yourself. This mindset is particularly counterproductive in a sales environment. Clear goals, clear standards, clear strategies, expectations, performance metrics, Everybody being held equally accountable to those are essential to success. And expectations within a sales team must be explicit, clear as the nose on your face, leaving no room for ambiguity. What's expected? I know what's expected of me at work. And then I have the tools, the knowledge to achieve those expectations. It's clarity. And clarity begins with setting specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound SMART goals for each team member. I'm shocked how often I get brought in to help a sales leader out, sales team out, and find that the sales team really haven't defined goals, much less those goals being reviewed on a daily basis, weekly basis, and the how-tos to achieve those goals. Best case is they just put a big number up there. Worst case is there's just sell what you can sell. It's very unclear. So in this environment of fogginess, we don't know where our challenges are, much less how to improve them. Some sales managers often use the excuse that they don't have enough time for these conversations I'm leading you to right now. Because this takes a lot of conversations, a lot of coaching interactions. And very often, sales managers avoid this using the internal excuse that they don't have enough time for these long, frequent discussions about accountability and coaching and the how-tos. They believe their conversations are too time-consuming. I assure you that is not true. It's just another self-limiting mindset that ultimately hinders your effectiveness as a leader. By avoiding these crucial conversations, managers may think they're saving time. I often talk about efficient versus effective communication. You may think you're saving time by not having these one-on-one conversations frequently. These self-discovery sessions, those take so much longer than you just telling them what to do. Tell them what they're doing wrong and how to fix it. That's very efficient. It's just not very effective. What I'm talking about through self-discovery takes time. It takes time over time. But you're not saving time. You're actually setting yourselves up for more significant time drains in the future. Because if people aren't making it, you're going to have to replace those people. If people are demoralized or you have poor engagement within your team, they're going to be quitting. Hiring and training takes a lot of effort. How about the conversations you have to have with your boss? Time and effort, stress on you. Addressing issues early and consistently through proper communication will prevent all these small problems from snowballing into bigger, more complex challenges that require more time and effort to resolve later on. It may put you way behind the competition because you're not driving for success in the proper ways. So this is an investment in time. It's the proper investment in time. The proper investment in time in having the right discussions using self-discovery communication techniques, it actually saves time in the long run, builds morale, builds engagement, builds trust, builds respect. And when you take the time to guide your team members through self-reflection and accountability, now critical thinking, they're empowered to help themselves identify and correct mistakes, their own mistakes. And your self-discovery sessions will become easier and easier because they get there sooner as you're talking them through it. And a proactive approach reduces the likelihood of ongoing underperformance and the less need for constant managerial intervention. In the end, the time saved from not having to repeatedly address the same issues with the same people, far outweighs the initial investment of time in these meaningful conversations, guaranteed. So by prioritizing these discussions, sales managers can create a more efficient, high-performing team that requires less micromanagement. The bane of everybody's existence. Less micromanagement, less correction, because they're constantly getting better. You're helping them get better and better, less discussions, better performance. So you're going to get better results and less stress on them, less stress on you. But understand, when performance issues arise, they should be addressed promptly and constructively. And provide that individual with specific feedback and actionable steps. Help them get better. But failing to address poor performance under the guise of avoiding confrontation or hurting feelings, again, does a grave disservice to your underperforming team member. Nobody gets up in the morning and goes to work wanting to do a poor job. They want to do a good job. Help them do a good job. Without your coaching and input and direction, it deprives them of the opportunity to grow, learn, enhance their skills. Moreover, it can lead to a situation where the individual is unaware of their performance issues. They can't fix what they don't know about. And by avoiding confrontation, avoiding these conversations, you reach this critical point where enough pressure has now been put on you from whatever source. Maybe an annual review, maybe time to write somebody up, disciplinary action, which is really demoralizing. If I'm doing it a little bit, getting them a little better, making them aware of it, course correcting on a regular basis with regular discussions, the right kind of discussions, giving them constructive intervention, won't ever reach that point. So in essence, clear feedback and communication with the right technique of expectations coupled with supportive and timely feedback. It's not just about accountability. It's about providing every team member with the tools and guidance they need to succeed. So don't avoid these conversations. Have them often. Be proactive about them. Be fair with them. And in wrapping up this tactic, this part of the tactic, by fostering an environment where feedback is seen as a positive and integral part of the sales process. That's the cool thing about this. If you're addressing this with the right mindset, with a positive, encouraging mindset, they look forward to these discussions, especially if you're helping them self-discover. If you're pounding on them, but do this, don't do that, it's all coming from you. It's a conversation that is a monologue, not a dialogue. They'll dread it. But if they're actually getting help and able to go out there and apply what you're helping them with and getting better, you're creating a culture of continuous improvement where every team member not only looks forward to these conversations, they feel valued, supported, trusted, and now they're motivated to achieve their best. That's inspirational leadership. This approach not only uplifts the individual, but it strengthens the team. Weak link in the team, right? It strengthens the team as a whole, and it creates a cohesive, motivated, and high-performing unit. Grab something out of this, think about it, start applying it, work through your issues, your fear, your reluctance, and think about how you can change your approach to have the right conversations at the right time with the right people, at the right level of fairness. And you'll see your team begin thriving at a level you never would have expected.